Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. Going to have a look at the weather next week to 10 days for today's video. So this is going to take us to the 10th of July, for the first day of July today. Of course, this will take us through the first week to 10 days of July. And we'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles running to around a couple of weeks. Have a look at CFS V2 at the end of the video, which will cover pretty much the whole of the month. So we've got June central temperature in. That's where we're going to start off with the video. So I'll talk through the June CT very shortly. Just say that yesterday we released the NEO forecast for the winter of 2019-2020. It's had over 2,000 views so far within 24 hours. So it seems to be a pretty popular video. So if you haven't seen it yet, it's on the YouTube channel, and also, of course, it's at gavsweathers.com. On the newly created page for winter updates. The main winter updates, of course, don't start till September, but have a look at that anyway. It's an interesting watch, and the video seems to be going down quite well, I think. Right, so let's get on with today's video, though. And as I said, we're going to start off central temperature. This is the CT page at Gavs Weathers. It shows every month's worth of CT data going back to 1659. So if we scroll down here, we can come down to 2019. There is our current year just there. And this is the number for June. It's in now at 14.2. So that's actually bang on average for 61 to 990. These are the averages just here. So the 61 to 1990 June average is 14.2. The 81 to 2010, the more modern average, so just there, that comes out at 14.5. So set against 61 to 990, this June has been bang on average, and set against 81 to 2010, it's actually been a little bit cooler than average. Yeah, quite a coolish month. Last time we had a June that was cooler than this was back in 2015, actually. So a little while ago, 4 years back, that came out at 14.0. Since then, had a run of warm June. So 2016 at 15.2, then 2017 at 16.0, and then of course 2018 last year 16.1. Very hot June last year. And the last time June was underneath 14 degrees, so appreciably cooler than average. Actually had a run of them through the early part of the decade. So we had 2011 at 13.8, 2012 at 13.5, and then 2013 at 13.6. So we did pretty poorly for June in the early part of the decade, and then picked up a lot in the second half of the decade. Anyway, so it turns out that June comes out very, very close to average for the central temperature. I would suspect that would be quite reflective of the UK-wide data, although it's possible Scotland has had a rather colder month, I would have thought. We'll see when the UK data comes in. But if it hadn't been for that sort of heat wave that it had in the last day or two of the month, then it would probably have been a cooler than average June, certainly against 81 to 2010. And that heat struggled to get up to Scotland, so it's possible up there they have had a proper cooler than average month. But we will see when the UK data comes in. Of course, it's also a very unsettled month, especially the first half. So we'll find out how wet this June has been as well when the UK data comes in. Right, moving on to the 500 millibar high anomaly flow chart, then see what July has in store. We've got the GFS here on the top. No, not. We've got the ECM on the top, and the GFS is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet, is an area in the absolute high pressure, low pressure, being drowned by the jet stream running above. Red suffix high pressure, blue to low pressure. These are from last night's midday runs. So Penn State University haven't updated this morning for today's midnight runs. So these are based on yesterday's midday runs. But I think they're still relevant for the next week, 10 days. There's not going to be all that much change. Well, there's not been all that much change over the past few hours from yesterday's midday runs to today's midnight runs, if you see what I mean. So these are still quite relevant in showing the basic setup for the next week to 10 days. So we see we've got this big blocking area of high pressure with the ECM placed over top of the North Pole. That is proper true northern blocking centered right over top of the pole and sending a ridge down into the Atlantic Ocean. That's a classic mid-Atlantic ridge with a trough of low pressure sitting away to our east. This will be pulling in cool winds from the north and the northwest. Now, it might not necessarily be all that unsettled, so it would be an unsettled signal for Scandinavia, northern parts of Europe, and that trough of low pressure. We're a little bit away from that, and the Atlantic's blocked off, so, I mean, we're probably just talking about showery conditions there more than anything else. But the most notable talking point, I think, within the 7 to 10 day time frame based on that, would be a pretty cool feel. GFS is very similar as well. Again, proper northern blocking up here of all of these red colours. And then we have the mid-Atlantic ridge extending down through the Atlantic Ocean. Trough of below average heights over Scandinavia and central parts of Europe even deeper with the GFS. So again, pulling in cool, potentially very cool northerly winds in the 7 to 10 day time frame. Rather showery, particularly so for the northeast. Probably not overly wet, but certainly cool and a little bit on the showery side. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. So look at Wattisham. Today, someone's asked to have a look at the ensemble graph for Wattisham. So the red line here is a 30-year upper air temperature average for Wattisham. You see in the next couple of days we're going to be cooler than average, then going warmer around the middle part of the week, just briefly. But at the end of the week into weekend, and then into next week, actually looking quite cool again, going below that red line, and even towards the middle part of July, which is this period just here, there's no sign of any particular hot weather coming up. There are one or two hot outliers, these ones just here, but we're certainly not going back to that sort of excessive heat that we had at the end of last week and over the weekend. They're not going back to those very high upper air temperatures. So it looks like the first half of July is probably going to be relatively cool actually now. Precipitation-wise, plenty of dry weather through the first week to 10 days, then more precipitation spikes appearing as we go through the second week of July and into the middle part of the month. That's unreliable time frame stuff, so within the reliable time frame it looks relatively dry, but quite cool, and then possibly by mid-month going more unsettled. Temperature anomalies from the 1st to the 9th of July are quite striking now, coming out cooler than average, not just for the UK and Ireland, but for many central and northern parts of Europe. Very cool in the next week over Scandinavia. You could even say quite cold, I think, over Scandinavia, and much of sort of northern Europe looking quite cool as well. Going into southern Europe, it does look warmer there, but nowhere near as hot as it was last week. Precipitation anomalies drier than average for the UK and France, so quite an unusual combination in the summer actually. Cooler than average, but also drier than average in the next week. That is a relatively unusual combination in the summer. Usually in summer, if it's cool, it's wet, and if it's dry, it's hot. But you do get variations from that. There have been cool, dry summer months over the years. July 1981 was a particularly notable example of that, and also potentially July 1993 I think was another example, maybe July 1998 too. So there are exceptions to that rule, but cool, dry in the summer is a relatively unusual combination, but that's what we've got coming up in the weekend anyway. Drier than average precipitation anomalies for the UK and Ireland. Notice Scandinavia though looking quite wet. That's where the trough of low pressure is, so a bit above average with the precipitation up there, and with significantly cold and average temperature anomalies. Looks like it's going to be a pretty dismal week up over Scandinavia. I would assume in the far north of Scandinavia, over mountainous areas anyway, there may be a little wintry potential in the week ahead with that. So that's how the GFS is looking for Thursday. It has this area of high pressure over top of the country. So having said all of this about this cool weather, actually for a couple of days later this week, going to get quite warm. Temperatures will go into mid-20s Celsius under that area of high pressure. Going to feel very, very pleasant indeed. That high still with us into Friday. We're beginning to pull out a little bit into the Atlantic. By Saturday, though, here come the northerlies. Northerly winds are moving down across the country as this trough of low pressure is sinking through Scandinavia. So that's where the proper unsettled weather is. We're still close enough to this ridge to be relatively dry, but with winds in from the north, it does look as though it's going to be pretty cool. And then we keep this cool weather going with these northerly winds as we go over the weekend and then into next week. This is a week's time, Monday the 8th of July. Again, the same broad pattern really, so low pressure is up to the northeast, high pressure is in the middle of the Atlantic and backing up towards Greenland. There's winds in from the north. So again, looking at to cool and showery conditions through to the early part of next week. Heading up towards day 10, that's how we're looking. Now you'll notice there's an awful lot of yellow sitting and orange sitting to our north. That's blocking. So the northern blocking signal that we had earlier in June looks like it's strengthening again within the northern latitudes as we're going up towards day 10. It's not normally a particularly good sign in the summer because it will be bringing us these northerly winds, so still cool up to day 10. But also this low pressure in the Atlantic could start to run underneath the blocking and bring more unsettled conditions. That is actually what this GFS 6 o'clock run does as we go up beyond day 10, starts to move this low pressure in off the Atlantic. So look at that as we get through to, it's 300 hours away, so it's a very long way out. It's Saturday the 13th of July, but you have to say that looks rather autumnal, and it has blocking high pressure up around Greenland and Iceland, and with this low pressure heading in off the Atlantic, that's bringing genuinely wet and unsettled conditions in from off the Atlantic, and then it just goes off and running into a very, very unsettled spell as you get to the middle of July. That does look rather ominous. It looks autumnal, would be cool, it would be wet, and that isn't what we want to be seeing in the middle part of July, but that's what the GFS extended operational run has conjured up today. This is a GEM, again, Thursday we're under that ridge of high pressure, looking quite nice, fair amount of dry weather, reasonably warm too. That high pressure then starts to pull out to the west of us as we go into the weekend, starts to allow cooler air to head into particularly northern and northeastern parts of the country into next week. So again, same sort of idea, really got the ridge sitting out to the west of us. We've got the trough of low pressure sinking through Scandinavia, and the winds are turning into the north. So particularly the northeast parts of the country, quite cool. And then we finish up with the GM actually starting to bring low pressure in off the Atlantic. So that again looking quite ominous by day 10. That's been cloud and outbreaks of rain with cool temperatures in from off the Atlantic Ocean. ECM, we're under that ridge of high pressure for Thursday, quite a nice middle part of the week coming up. High pressure then pulls out into the middle of the Atlantic at the end of the week and allows much cooler northerly winds to extend down across the country. The main northerly shot is to our northeast over Scandinavia with a trough of low pressure, but we're close enough to it to be certainly lowering the temperature. Anyway, that's how we look early next week. So again, high pressure just out to our west, keeping us mainly dry, but it's going to be a lot of dry weather around, I think, through this first week to 10 days of the month. It's just that temperatures are going to be a bit on the low side. Heading up towards day 10, that's how we're looking. Gradually starting to turn more unsettled. Again, you'll notice the blocking signal up over Greenland. Lots of high pressure up there. That's starting to push the projection string southwards. It does look as though, as we're heading towards the middle part of July, we could be starting to set up not only a cool pattern, but also a rather unsettled pattern as well. These are the options that are on the table within the ECM ensembles today at day 10, 11th of July. It's from the Icelandic Met Office, of course. So we've got 21 members of the ECM ensembles with above average heights out to our west. and below average heights to our east. So they're fairly dry, but cool. They're bringing the wind in from the north. Then there's 18 members of the ECM ensembles, included in the ECM control run, that has the ridge of high pressure, kind of like to west-southwest of Ireland. So again, jet stream doing something a bit like that. Probably a little bit warmer with that scenario. The wind's more from the middle of the Atlantic as opposed to being from the north. The other side of that, though, is it might be a little bit more unsettled, especially for northern parts of the country. And then there's 12. So it's a minority option, but it does include that operational run we was just looking at from the ECM that have genuine and true sort of northern blocking. They have this large area of high pressure up here around Greenland, and then they have the low pressure centred over and to the east of the country. And so obviously that's the coolest and most unsettled scenario, but possibly showing that the ECM operational run today is not all that well supported by its ensemble, because there's only 12 that are going that far with the northern blocking signal. And then in 2 weeks' time, these are the options that we've got. This gets us to the 16th of July. So we've got 22 members of the ECM ensembles that have a northern blocking signal. High pressure away to the north. Low pressure is out to our west. So obviously they're quite unsettled. 16, including the ECM control run, look like that. Trough of low pressure extending in from the northeast, blocking around Greenland. And then 13, these are the best options with above average heights, kind of like over and to the south of the country. They're bringing up warmer winds from sort of the middle of the Atlantic and from the south. So that would be the hottest and driest scenario. However, only 13 of those. If you put these 22 together with these 16, it does look as though the ECM ensembles also are trending cool and unsettled for the middle of July. Let's have a look at CFS-V2 and see how that's looking. So these are 500 millibar heights broken down to week pairs. The first weekly period takes us from the 1st to the 7th of July. The coming week with above average heights centred pretty much over top of the UK, just a little bit out to our west. So a lot of dry weather, but with this trough of low pressure over Scandinavia, we're pulling in quite cool northwesterly winds. So dry but cool really through the first week of July. Week 2 is the 8th to the 14th of July, again with above average heights out to west, below average heights over Scandinavia, doing something like that with the flow and with the jet stream. So again, rather dry again, I would have thought with that. High pressure just out to our west, but also on the cool side. Week 3 is the 15th to the 21st of July. This time the above average heights are a little bit more to our south. So that will start to bring in some warmer air perhaps from the middle of the Atlantic. And then week 4, it's all high pressure all way. It's just a case of the high pressure changing its position week by week. But this is week 4. It's the 22nd, 28th of July, with above average heights centred over top of the country. That will bring loads of dry and increasingly warm weather as we get to the end of the month. Temperature anomalies from the 1st to the 7th of July, generally a little bit on the cooler than average side, particularly so for the north. Week 2 temperature anomalies look a little bit better though. This is the 8th to the 14th of July, going a bit warmer than average. Week 3 also looking rather warmer than average. This is the 15th to the 21st of July, and week 4 also warmer than average, 22nd to 28th of July. So CFS is actually going for a warm July with this. And precipitation wise, coming week is drier than average. Week 2 also on the drier than average side through the 8th to the 14th of July. That's coming out drier than average as well. Week 3 is also drier than average, so a really dry month coming up. Week 4 is dry also. So on the face of it, the CFS is actually going for a classic, very warm and dry July, but there's not much sign of that within the shorter range. So again, we've got this discrepancy between what the longer range output is showing, what the shorter range output is showing. The shorter range, the GFS, the ECM, a lot cooler, I think, for the first week to 10 days of July. And whilst that period, first week to 10 days, is relatively dry but cool, they then start to hint anyway that by the middle of the month we're possibly going into something much more unsettled as well. So the shorter range trends for July, or the first half of July, not looking great, but the CFS, the trusty CFS, is still trying to bring us decent summer weather. So we should wait and see which way this goes. Of course, I'm not sure the CFS is performing terribly well, but I have to say so. Could be a case that the shorter range has this, but we shall see. Right, so that's it for your video for today. We'll be back tomorrow with another week's 10-day video update, and also tomorrow we've got the ECMWF 30-day look ahead. The Gales Weather's July forecast will probably be released on Wednesday. But tonight we've got Terry Scoley's July forecast coming up, so you'll be able to have a read of that and see what Terry is forecasting for July at around 7 o'clock this evening. Right, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.